Let me tell you a little bit about Miss Talia Mark. She was the manager of diversity affairs for the National Association of Stock Car Auto Racing, or NASCAR. As you can see, she was responsible for all multicultural marketing programs with a focus on youth, African Americans, and Hispanics. And her overall goal was to, as we've talked about in this class many times, expand the brand, right? To expand the brand. She founded the relationship between NASCAR and Dub Magazine. NASCAR has two major presences in key markets, including Detroit, Miami, Atlanta, Los Angeles, Dallas, San Diego, Charlotte, and Chicago. So some of you may be familiar with those cities. In 2008, Talia was the youngest participant in the Good Life, Exploring Non-Traditional Career Opportunities panel at the 100th anniversary of the NAACP's Youth Conference. So she's been really involved in, I know that you have an addendum to this, she's really been involved in a very interesting sport that certainly has not been women-oriented or minorities-oriented before. So I'm really excited to hear about the work that she did there and to tell us what's coming up next. So, okay, please get comfortable. Feel free to tweet. And please give all of your attention to Miss Talia.
Thank you. Hello. Hello.
Hi.
Oh, I'm sorry. If you're tweeting, let me know. So one of the first things that we like to do just to make sure you guys understand and get excited about what I'm going to talk about, and hopefully you guys can give me some energy to feed off of, is I need to know how many of you guys after you get out of college might be interested in making like $40,000 a year? Nobody? Anybody? Okay, what about like 50,000? I have a number I'm stopping at, so what about 60? 70? 80 is my last offer. 80. Okay, so anybody that's interested in making between 70 and 80, I need you to stand up. Yeah? Okay. Okay, so pay attention. This is very difficult. This is very difficult, what I'm going to ask you to do. So one of the main responsibilities of someone at NASCAR who makes between $70,000 and $80,000 is to do what I'm about to do right now. So I'm going to say 1, 2, 3, and I need everybody to put up their pointed finger and just say, woo! That's all you got to do, okay? Pretty difficult, I know. 1, 2, 3. Woo! Right. We're going to try this side. 1, 2, 3. Woo! 1, 2, 3. Okay, this side will probably make the $70,000 to $80,000. You can sit down. So basically what that is at the end of every race, there's a winner. And when they're in victory lane, each of their teams, the winning team goes through what's called a hat dance. And the PR professional is the person that has to make sure each team gets their sponsors' hats because their sponsors need their picture. That's basically what they're spending the hundreds of thousands and millions of dollars to do. And the PR professional says 1, 2, 3, and the entire team says, you participated. Here, just take a shirt. Thank you for your participation. Okay, so I'm Talia Mark, and I'm going to give you basically just an overview of my life. I'm 27 years old. I'm from Buffalo, New York, by way of go Buffalo, by way of Des Moines, Iowa. Anyone? No? Okay. By way of mid-Michigan, Mount Pleasant, Michigan. By way of Detroit, Michigan. By way of Daytona Beach, Florida. Yeah. All right. And tomorrow I'll be moving to Colorado Springs, Colorado. No one? Okay. All right. So, like I said, I was in mid-Michigan. I went to high school in mid-Michigan at Mount Pleasant High School. I went to Central Michigan University. I have a degree in integrated public relations, which is essentially a mixture of journalism, PR, advertising. We did some graphic design. I got my degree from there in 4 years. My first internship was at Pine Rest Christian Mental Health Institution. Let me explain Pine Rest Christian Mental Health Institution to you. It is a mental health institution where I was in charge of putting together their press clips. I did a lot of press releases. I wrote a lot of stories for the hospital. But one of the things that got me out of there pretty quickly is they had what were called coded alerts. So for example, on your very first day when you get there, they would give you a sheet of paper and it said yellow alert, which meant you go in your office and close your door. You have an orange alert where you go in your office, you close and lock your door. If you have a green alert, you go in your office, close your door, lock your door, and open the window. So one day we had a close your door, lock the door, open the window alert. That was my last day. And then I got a job at PCG Campbell, which is the agency of record for all things Ford. So Ford Racing, Ford Charitable Funds, Ford Motorcraft, Ford Credit. And in my interview, they asked me, like, what area did I want to work in? I didn't really care. I was 20 years old. I said, I just want to travel. Like, just send me wherever. I want to get on a plane. I haven't been too many places, so I just want to travel. So they said, all right, racing. That's what you're going to do. I didn't know what NASCAR was. No clue. I couldn't tell you what it stood for. I couldn't name a driver. Maybe I might have been able to name Earnhardt, maybe. But I didn't know anything about NASCAR. So I got there, and I did some of the entry-level things that everyone will have to do. I got coffee for people. I got orange juice for people. I set up donuts in the meeting room. I did all the fun stuff that hopefully you'll get an opportunity to do, because it definitely builds character. But my very first race was at Talladega during the taping of Talladega Nights. Yeah. So that was an interesting experience for that to be my first NASCAR race at one of the biggest track that NASCAR has. It was very interesting. But let me back up a second to tell you why I did the interview at PCG Campbell. My best friend, she was working on the Ford racing team at PCG Campbell also, and she called me one day and she was crying. She was like, Talia, I just locked the keys in the pace car. I don't know what to do. They can't start the race. There's camera crews coming. And I was like, what's a pace car? Like, and for those of you who don't know, because don't laugh, not everyone knew, you have to have the pace car to start the race. So, like, pace is the other cars. So she locked the keys in the pace car. The news cameras were coming. She was crying. Why she was on the phone with me, I don't know. But when I got off the phone with her, I was like, that's awesome. Like, I want to be the person to solve the problem of locking the keys to the pace car in the pace car before a huge race. So that was my main reason for wanting to go over it to PCG Campbell. Let's see, what else can I tell you about myself? Oh, one of the biggest programs that I worked on while I was at PCG Campbell is called the NASCAR Street Tour. NASCAR Street Tour was an F-150 and a Ford Fusion that had a really cool paint scheme on it. It had neon lights. It had 7 flat screen TVs between the two of them. It was on hydros. It had satellite TV. It had the internet. And basically its purpose was to bring the sights and sounds of NASCAR to places where NASCAR would never ever go on a typical day. So it went to a lot of concerts. It went to like Essence Festival. It went to Boys and Girls Club. It goes to all these different places. And I was managing it on Ford's side. Well, the person who was managing it on NASCAR's side, she left. She took another job, and I guess she just passed my name along. So I was the first person that they called for the job. So that kind of goes into the whole networking thing that I'm sure your teachers have told you about many, many, many times. It's not what you know, but see, that's that participation. Okay, so she passed my name along, and I started work at NASCAR in August of 2007, and my main goal on paper was to continue to manage the NASCAR Street Tour, to make it bigger, broader. We doubled the car, so there's 2 sets of NASCAR Street Tour vehicles running around this country somewhere right now. But I kind of had a little bit of extra time on my hands, so I was like, well, what program can I start? I want to start something that's mine. I don't want to go in and continue to work on other people's programs. So I knew that when I got into corporate world, I was book smart. I knew how to put together different reports. I know how to do Excel documents. I knew how to do all that. But I also was used to my teacher saying, okay, today's Monday, you have this report due and it's due on Friday. I wasn't ready for my boss to say, today's Monday, you have this report due that's a report due on Friday, and then come to me on Tuesday and say, actually, I need it right now. I wasn't ready for that, in addition to all the other responsibilities that I had. So I was like, how can I help college students get ready for that type of interaction? Because I was not ready for it. So I started a program called NASCAR Kinetics, which you'll see in the slide. But basically, NASCAR Kinetics is set to put college students like you in the footsteps of someone like me in motorsports marketing or sports marketing. So we would give you case studies on a weekly basis or biweekly basis that had to do with anything that I was dealing with in motorsports at the time. So it could be from Sprint has a new phone and they want to figure out how to promote it in the NASCAR communities. What would you do? It'd be very broad, and it would be up to you and your team to come up with a plan of action for Sprint or for M&M's or for whatever sponsor we were working with at the time. So you'd get graded on that. But then the big program at the end of every semester is a NASCAR viewing party. It would be up to you and your team of 5 to put together a NASCAR viewing party, and the team that got the highest percentage of their student population to come out to the party got an all-expense-paid trip. The all-expense-paid trip, depending on the semester, would either be for, if it was the spring semester, it'd be for the NASCAR Sprint All-Star Race in Charlotte, North Carolina. So it'd be 4 days, all-expense-paid tickets, there's concerts, there's all your meals, you go to the nicest restaurants, nicest hotels, all that. And if it was the fall semester, which if I was a college student, this is the prize that I'd probably want. But they got to go to South Beach, Miami, because the race was in Homestead, Miami. And it was the same. Why are you smiling? You want to go to South Beach? See, I knew someone. But it was the same type of thing. The first semester, we took the kids to the races, the young adults to the races, but we also took them jet skiing. One of the students from Notre Dame did crash a jet ski, but I'm sure that would not happen at this wonderful university. But we took them to the races, the concerts, all the fun stuff. So that in a nutshell is what NASCAR Kinetics is, and that was kind of my big project in consumer marketing. I was also in charge of the NASCAR fan collateral, which is this, just on steroids. So it's probably a 43-page fan document that goes through everything NASCAR. So how much a tire weighs, to who the drivers are, to when the races are, to everything about the NASCAR Foundation, NASCAR Diversity Affairs, everything. I was in charge of putting that together. So for a 43-page document, it was bilingual. How long do you guys think that might have taken to do? How many?
I don't know,
7 months? Anyone else? A year? 3 months? It took about 5 months to put that together. And also keep in mind, it was pretty much the same stuff used year after year after year. And someone may ask, why would it take so long? It's because every year we have sponsors changing, and you have to keep your sponsors happy. NASCAR is a sponsor and fan-driven sport. You have to keep all your sponsors happy. So a good example is Jimmy Johnson. Jimmy Johnson keeps winning and winning and winning. And anybody know who he's sponsored by? Lowe's. Okay. Does anybody know who for the longest time, what Home Depot was? Okay. Tony Stewart wasn't winning, right? Home Depot was our official partner. We were not allowed to put Jimmy Johnson on the cover of our own fan guide because Home Depot was our official partner. So little things like that. So we might want to put a picture in there of fans cheering. Well, if that fan's holding a phone and I can see T-Mobile on it, who's going to get mad? Okay. So if we have someone and it's an awesome picture and they're jumping up in the stands and they have a Shell shirt on, who's going to be mad? Sunoco. Oh, not BP. So those are the type of things that we have to deal with. There's not a lot of copy changes, but we have to keep our sponsors happy, and we have to preserve the integrity of the brand. So we have to make sure the fan collateral brand, along with Kinetics, along with anything else that we do, is a consistent brand across the board. So do you guys have any questions about me before I get into any of our diversity stuff? I need at least 2 questions. Yes?
Do you actually have an office, or are you just constantly on the go?
Both.
Okay.
Yeah.
Where's your office at?
My office is in Daytona Beach, Florida. Was in Daytona Beach, Florida. I actually left NASCAR on Friday. I don't know if that was in anything, but we'll get to that. But my office was in Daytona Beach, Florida, but I was traveling probably about 80% of the time. And one of the cool things about my job is that even before I got to NASCAR, I was still probably traveling about 65% of the time. You know that when you're traveling for work, you don't necessarily have to pay for it. So for me, I'm 20-something years old, and you're telling me I can go to San Diego and Los Angeles and Las Vegas, and I don't have to pay for it? It kind of works for me a little bit. So, yes?
Have you leisure time?
Do I have leisure time? Yes, when I'm in San Diego and Las Vegas and Los Angeles. I actually do have a lot of friends throughout the country just because of that. Like, I had my going away party from NASCAR, even though I live in Daytona and my office is in Daytona, my party was in Charlotte. Yes.
How did you keep yourself so open to something that in a way makes no sense, right?
What makes
I mean,
no sense?
As far as, you know, because many students can be very myopic about, I want to go into a certain kind of PR, a certain something. I mean, walk us through your process.
I didn't have a process. Quite honestly, I didn't have a process. We were just talking about this. A lot of people say, you know, what do you want to be when you grow up? And I'm sure everybody knows exactly their 10-year plan right now of what they want to do. Everybody, right? I still don't know mine. So the thing that I knew is that I wanted to have fun. I wanted to learn. I'm a constant learner. I'm addicted to learning. Like, I just want to know everything. And I'm one of those people, like, if we're talking and you say a word like myopic, I'm going to have to look that up after this class. So, but I'm one of those people that will Google everything. And I didn't know anything about NASCAR. So the natural course was to go work for NASCAR. So, but I really did not have a plan. Sorry.
But no, that's very cool. But you left yourself open to all possibilities.
Yep, absolutely. Any other questions before I get into the PowerPoint? One more? No more? Going once? Okay. So this next portion is going to be all about the different diversity initiatives that we have at NASCAR. And also, let me back up and tell you why I went to our diversity department. I was with NASCAR Consumer Marketing for 2.5 years. And the diversity department has been around at NASCAR for about 12 years, and they've got some amazing things going on, but people don't know about them. And they knew that with NASCAR Kinetics, in 4 months of the program got 4.3 million media impressions, and they knew that the program was really, really growing at a fast speed. So they're like, well, how can we take some of that energy and put it to a lot of our diversity initiatives? So I'm going to go through some of our on-track and off-track diversity initiatives, and then hopefully you guys will have more questions. If not, I'll just give those T-shirts and bags away.
You set up, and maybe you're going to do a presentation a little bit about sort of the challenge of diversity in NASCAR.
Yes. The challenge of diversity in NASCAR is a generational challenge. A lot of people will continue to think that NASCAR is just for one type of person. And if people don't do the research into the different opportunities that NASCAR has, they'll continue to think that it's just for one type of person, and it's really not.
I think that's it. But do you want to maybe elaborate on that a little bit?
Ooh. Help me out.
Talking to, about sort of what people's conceptions, the kind of people who go to NASCAR.
Oh, well, yeah, this is actually really fun. So one of the perceptions is that a lot of people that are NASCAR fans are are rednecks, and they don't have a lot of money, and that's the only people that are NASCAR fans. And so when I get people that come out to the track, I said, okay, do you see that the trailer over there? How much do you think that costs? I don't know. It's probably a $500,000 trailer. See that one over there? How much do you think that costs? It's probably like $1 million trailer. So I don't know about you, but I don't know too many people who are supposed to be poor that can take Wednesday through Sunday off of work to hang out with their best buddies every other weekend. I don't know too many people. I certainly can't afford $1 million trailer to travel the country to see my favorite sport. So that's one of the things that a lot of people have been told generations to generations what NASCAR is all about. But when we've done research, it's the people who are telling them and giving them those stereotypes have never, ever set foot on a track. How many of you have been to a race?
I was just gonna say, like, that is like perfect, because over spring break I went to Bristol Motor Speedway.
Mm-hmm.
It is the first time I've ever been to a NASCAR race. It is unlike anything I've ever been before. I'm a basketball, football guy. That was awesome. Like, it was just great.
Yes.
Like, I never thought it'd be like that. I'm dead serious though. I'm just kind of like adding on to what you're saying, because it's the truth. Until you go to one of those things, like and you're right about like the trailers. Like at Bristol, they have like that huge field down by.
Yep.
And there's like I don't even know, thousands of trailers. I mean, those guys.
Yep.
There's a lot of money into it, but.
You don't think about it because that's
awesome.
not what you hear about. You hear about completely different things, but it's really one big party week after week after week.
It was great.
So, and one of the other fun stats is that on any typical weekend, on a low selling weekend, on a high selling weekend, a NASCAR race will have more attendees than the NBA All-Star Game, Major League Baseball, the championship and Major League Soccer, whatever their championship is, all at one time, combined, on any given weekend. Yes, sir.
I know you mentioned that NASCAR is a stereotype for the redneck issue. Does NASCAR go about any way of reaching out to fans that they see as maybe somebody who wouldn't enjoy a race and maybe invite them or start anything like that?
Yeah, it's one of the things that I'm going to talk about in here. But yeah, they actually, it's for fans and for non-fans. So one of the things that they have for fans, like their avid fans, they have the Fan Council, which has thousands of people on there where, like, I don't know how many of you are really into NASCAR, but the double file restart, that came from NASCAR fans. NASCAR fans told NASCAR, we want the races after a caution to start in a double file. That came straight from the fans. So we've also done a couple of programs, and one I'm going to talk about that comes out of the diversity department that reaches out to non-fans or people who are kind of skeptic about the sport. Yes?
About how many PR people work for NASCAR?
That's a...
Or like for one race, how many PR people?
Well, I'm going to answer both of them. How many PR people work for NASCAR? It's a really good question because right now, I don't know if you know, NASCAR just transformed the entire PR department. So how many of you are interested in going into PR? Because this could be really good news for some of you. Okay. NASCAR has eliminated the PR department and transformed it into integrated marketing communications. They are in the process of hiring between 15 and 20 new PR people, and a lot of them will most likely be entry-level positions. So if you're interested and you have a pen, I would strongly suggest that you go to employment.nascar.com if you're at that point. And if not, PR always has summer internships. So in the PR department, between our offices in Charlotte, Daytona, New York, Los Angeles, we have approximately 50. But when you go out to the racetrack, you're going to have hundreds because you're going to have each driver's PR person, each team's PR person, the sponsor's PR person, NASCAR PR people. So, I mean, you're going to have hundreds of PR people out there. It's a very PR-driven sport. This side is really good with the questions. Yes?
Do you say the double file starting at what is
Double file, what they're doing right here. So in the past, yep, if there's a crash in the past, they would just line up in a single line and start the race over. But the fans wanted to see double file restart. So it makes for a little bit more excitement.
That's what I thought.
Yeah. Okay. So keep in mind, these are things that just come out of the diversity department. There are a lot of other programs that come out of either consumer marketing or brand marketing or our licensing department that are consumer-driven programs. So the first one that I talked about, or I'm going to talk about, is our diversity internship program. To be in this program, you must be an ethnically diverse male or female. And for going into a major sporting league, one, a lot of sporting leagues may not offer internships, but if they do, I can pretty much guarantee you not all of them are paid. NASCAR internships are paid internships. Along with that, the 10-week internship program, you also get a $500 monthly stipend to live in either Daytona, Charlotte, New York, Los Angeles, and you can be placed in any of those different areas. Also, the cool thing is if you're selected as an intern, and last year we had 26 interns, if you're selected, you'll be flown out to Charlotte for the All-Star race and basically just given an overview of everything that's NASCAR, 3 days, full NASCAR immersion. So it may be a lot, actually. That sounds cool. So these are some of the different areas that NASCAR has internship opportunities. A lot of people ask, they'll say their major and they'll say, well, what if there's not anything for me? There are very few majors or very few interests that you will not find an internship opportunity. And the odds are if we don't have it, we'll find a way to fit you in. And if you have any questions while I'm going through, just raise your hand, yell at me. Yeah.
Your major's not on there and you're interested in something on there, can you apply?
You can apply, and on the application form, it'll say like what are the areas that you're interested in, and I believe there's an other section, and you just write what your major is, and you can always call also and just say, hey, I'm really interested. And the good thing is, if it's not listed here and they hadn't planned on, say you have, I don't even know what a major would be that's not listed on here.
I'm a finance major.
Okay, we'll say, okay, so finance. You can call them and say, I'm really interested in finance. Can you see if your accounting department would be interested in an intern?
Do you know if they're looking for summer internships now?
You would have to go to employment.nascar.com.
I just,
Yeah, no, if you go there, and also one of the other things that I don't think people understand is that for the most part, people are genuinely willing to help. So if you were to make a cold call and just say, hey, I have a finance major, and if you'd let me come work for you, if you can do it for free, most people will not turn down free labor. But if you say, hey, can I come work for you for free for a few weeks throughout the summer, or can I shadow you for a couple of weeks, they'll let you do it. There are very few people that will say, no, I do not want your free expertise. No, stay away from me. You're not going to get too much of that. So the Diversity Mentorship Program is another program that comes out of our department, and it's a shortened version of the internship program. It runs about every other week, and we go to the race markets, and it's a 3-day, Friday through Sunday, basically like a shadowing program. So you let the person, Alejandra Diaz Calderon actually runs it out of our office, and she'll contact you and she'll say, what is your major? What would you like to get out of this program? And she'll tailor the whole weekend to whatever you're interested in. So, for example, this would be like a sample weekend. This person is apparently interested in like a hospitality, public affairs. This might be something that you would be interested in, like public relations, that type of thing. She would make sure that you meet all the necessary people to make connections with. So she's gonna facilitate it. It's up to you to then get the contacts and follow up with people. NASCAR scholarship. NASCAR gives out quite a bit of money for scholarships. How many of you guys and girls could probably use, I don't know, maybe $10,000 just for writing an essay? Maybe? Everybody else got enough money? Good. Okay, that's a good thing because I don't. So basically, NASCAR works through UNCF and HAKU to give out scholarship funds, and it's run through the individual organization. So if your school is a part of either of these two organizations, then there's scholarship money available. Also, there's a scholarship program through the University of Central Florida. They have a graduate sports management program. NASCAR Kinetics. Any questions on NASCAR Kinetics? Everybody knows everything?
How do you form those teams at the different,
For Kinetics? You have to go through it's just like a regular job. You have to go through an interview process. So NASCAR will reach out to the administration. Administration will promote NASCAR Kinetics coming on your campus, and then the students have to go through a regular application, phone interviews. Depending on how many schools are in the program that semester, someone from NASCAR may come out and do face-to-face interviews.
Slide before this, the weekend thing, or yeah, that. Like this sounds like too good to be true. Sounds like he's giving us jobs, giving us all these contracts.
So what is your question?
Why is everyone doing this?
I don't know. I mean, we must just be brilliant. I'm not sure. No, I mean, I don't know. Everyone should do it, but we're trying to stay ahead of the curve. So I'm just gonna take it as I'm brilliant. Is that okay? Okay. I'm modest too. So here are some of the schools that are in Kinetics right now. They are planning on adding 15 schools for the fall semester. Yep. Tweet about it.
I'm tweeting.
But yeah, they're adding 15 more schools. So I'll make sure that your administration, if this is something that you think, is there anybody that would find this program interesting to be on your campus? Maybe? Yeah, a couple? At least 5? Okay, so we'll make sure that you guys get the information. And it is a really, really cool program. And also, each student who successfully completes the program, and you don't have to win, just be in the program and successfully participate with your team, and you're active in what your team is doing, you'll get a letter of recommendation from NASCAR that you can use in your portfolio, which, again, it's not what you know, but yep. Can I switch?
Yeah, sorry.
Okay. Okay, so those were the off-track programs. Drive for Diversity Has anyone heard of Changing Lanes? It was a television show on BET this past summer. It was basically a reality TV show about our Drive for Diversity program. There are 10 drivers in the program right now, and it kind of captured their life from the second they signed up to be in the program to the winning driver who was selected at Irwindale at the Toyota All-Star race. But basically, it is for diverse males and females who have a drive or who have a will to be NASCAR drivers. They all have very extensive driving records. Sound bad, but they're all like professional drivers. Most of them have been driving from the age of 8. They started out in go-karts and bandoleros. And NASCAR, pretty much, it's kind of like a scholarship for those drivers to drive. NASCAR is a very expensive sport. It can be a very expensive sport. So this just kind of helps them get into the racing world. These drivers all drive in the K&N Pro Series East and the NASCAR Whelen All-American Series. We also have a portion of this that supports crew members, people who are looking at becoming crew members in NASCAR's top 3 circuits. So Phil Horton, Ashton, who's not in here, I don't remember Ashton's last name, but it's actually Ashton's uncle. Yeah. Ashton's uncle is but the leading crew member coach in all of NASCAR. So he's over all of the crew members. This is the Pit Crew Development Program. This is the program that Phil Horton manages. Again, how many athletes are in the room? Any athletes? Okay, so most of the pit crew members are former athletes. There are females on the crew. There are a lot of ex-football players on the crew. And one of the cool things that the diversity pit crew members get to do is every year at the end of the year in Las Vegas, we have our Champs Week. So the top 12 drivers get to take their show cars out to Vegas, and they get to ride up and down the Vegas Strip. And the crew members get to do like fake tire changes on them and all that, but it's in front of hundreds of thousands of people. So it's pretty cool. It's a pretty cool deal. And that's what they're doing in the background of this picture, if you can see it. And then one of the other programs that's run out of our Revolution Racing team, which is where our Drive for Diversity members race out of, is youth racing. And that's a program that's getting started. We had 4 drivers, 2 girls, 2 guys, that ran bandoleros last year, and they did a pretty good job. We had one guy, Elijah Bacon, who is 12 years old. Actually, no, he's 11 years old. He won the Youth Driver of the Year award last year, so that was a pretty big deal for them. And those are some of the guys that race for Revolution Racing and who were on the TV show Changing Lanes. I promote them. A lot of those, actually pretty much all of those programs were put in place before I got there. There are a couple things that are not on this slide that we do that I actually am in charge of, but my job is to promote these programs. So how many of you knew that NASCAR actually did this stuff? How many of you did not know that NASCAR did this stuff? That's my job. So. And we do that we're trying to get more in like commercials, going around speaking to colleges, universities, high schools. We do a lot of high school outreach, pamphlets, literature, conventions, conferences, all that. But it's my job to figure out to make sure that all you guys know what's happening behind the glass doors at NASCAR. Yeah.
I know a lot of the stuff is like about diversity and stuff like that, and that's what this is all based on. But is there anything for like internships and stuff like that for someone who isn't like a minority or anything? Yep, you can go to employment.nascar.com. The most popular internship, and we only have summer internships, the most popular one is a PR internship. The PR department, it seems like they always have interns. Our licensing department also has interns. The best thing about the PR internship is they have been known to keep interns forever. And they're all paid internships, so it's not like we're kidnapping you. But our last intern who came out of the NASCAR Kinetics program, she was an intern for PR. She was not diverse, and she was there for a year and a half. So, yeah.
How long, do the summer internships last?
10 weeks. They can last longer if that person so chooses to, if the department chooses to, but it's typically 10 weeks.
What would you recommend a broadcast student for something like this?
Contact NASCAR Media Group. NASCAR Media Group. NASCAR has its own. It is the same company, but it's not the same company. We all work hand in hand, but they're based out of Charlotte. And you can just go, I believe it might be NASCARmediagrp.com, I believe. But if not, you can go to NASCAR.com and you can find that on there. And they do have a couple of jobs open right now. And they do internships also. Yeah.
I mean, NASCAR is a pretty non-traditional sport in the sense that it's not in high schools. You can go out and just play it. What's your biggest obstacle to turning someone like myself, who did all kinds of sports, onto NASCAR? Because I've never really understood it. I know they just changed the point system.
The biggest obstacle?
Yeah.
The biggest obstacle is that it's not a stick and ball sport. Like when you were 8 years old, you couldn't go in the backyard and say, hey, let's go play NASCAR. Like, you know, that really is the biggest obstacle. So right now, one of the biggest things that helps us is for younger people, and for those of you who like video games, is getting people into video games and iRacing. We go to a lot of high schools and we bring the high school students out to the track. And when we bring them out to the track, we don't just say, come out to the track, sit in the stands. We're bringing you out to the track. We're going to take you down in the pits. We're going to introduce you to some of the drivers. We'll let you stand at their pit stall during the race, like all of that type of stuff. So that would be kind of our way to introduce you to the sport. But yeah, that's definitely one of the biggest obstacles is you can't turn around and say, I'm going to play NASCAR on Friday night. It's just, you know.
This side of the room's getting good over here.
Okay. Whoa. You.
I was reading here that you founded a relationship between NASCAR and Dub Magazine. What necessarily is a relationship? What does that entail?
Okay, the relationship between NASCAR and Dub Magazine was when I was in consumer marketing and we were trying to figure out, still are trying to figure out ways to broaden the fan base of NASCAR. And are you familiar with Dub Magazine? Anybody? Okay, so Dub Magazine Dub actually are the people who make the cars of the stars. So they'll take my $10,000 Jeep and turn it into $1 million something that should not be called a Jeep. But they work with a lot of different celebrities and they have a concert series and they do, right now they're at 14 concerts a year and headlining would be like Chris Brown, Ludacris, Snoop, traditionally not NASCAR people. But we had a display within their concert and we went to 24 of their different concerts. We had a presence on their stage during some of their different concerts. We gave away jackets, we had tire change units there, and the initial reaction when people saw us there, it was like, why is NASCAR here? What are you doing? Like, step back, hold up. But then when they came into the booth, the only way that they could get a t-shirt or a jacket or whatever is if they read the information that we had on the walls around us, and it was all NASCAR diversity information. If they read the information, all they had to do was fill out like a 5-question survey. They didn't even have to put their name on it. We just want you to know what we're doing. We don't need anything else. We just want you to know. After they read the information, filled out the survey, then they'd get a t-shirt, but then they'd walk away like, oh, okay, so NASCAR isn't what I thought, or now I know what NASCAR is. So that was the relationship. But that relationship ended because they started when we're trying to get it back, but they signed a deal with Pepsi. And how many of you know who that would upset? Coke. Yes. And Coke is our biggest sponsor. So, as of last Friday was my last day at NASCAR. I really like my job. Really like my job. And USA Swimming called me. And they basically were offering me the same position that I was doing at NASCAR, and it's the Olympics. So. You know what? It wasn't even, someone asked me that. He said, did I do it for the money? No. But, no, the main reason is the number one program I'm working on is called Make a Splash. And the stats say that 9 people every day drown. And for minorities, it's 3 times that. And Make a Splash is a program that's goal is to teach every single kid in America to learn how to swim. And I'm in charge of that program now. So it's like I can continue doing this, which is definitely changing people's perceptions, and I'm having a great time with it, and it's so much fun. Or I can potentially save a 5-year-old from drowning one day, you know? So it's kind of, it's a little emotional. Yes?
So then, if you don't work for NASCAR anymore, why are you still promoting?
Because I already said I would do it, and I'm true to my word. Yes?
When you decided that you wanted to work for, the NASCAR for Ford, what steps did you go to get in contact with them? Did you go online and find someone?
When I wanted to work for Ford or for NASCAR?
When your friend called you and you said, I want to have that job, how did you go about?
I asked her to, because after she locked the keys in the pace car, she quit. So I knew that there was going to be a job opening. So, so I had her talk to her superior, and they went through, I think, 10 interviews or something like that. And I was the very last interview. And I remember my boss, who ended up being my boss, she fell asleep on me in the interview. Still got the job. She fell asleep on me though. But yeah, I actually have not filled a job application out since the Christian Mental Health Institute. And it's always been somebody saying, hey, I know this girl. Hey, I've worked with her somewhere. No, him.
If you had to take something out of working for NASCAR for like how long, or for however long you work for them, like what would be one thing that you're taking away from work?
That's an awesome question. Can he have a t-shirt?
Yeah, absolutely.
If I had to take something out, I would definitely say that the whole it's not what you know but who you know, that was magnified by far. Most of the opportunities that I've had would not have been made possible because of anything that I've done, but because somebody else reached over to help me out. To be genuine, a lot of times people can get in motorsports or any type of sports marketing or any type of sports industry and get ahead of themselves and think they're a little bit bigger than they are. And when you surround yourself by the right people, which I think I did, they kind of balance you out. But I just learned a lot about different people. So when I got into NASCAR, I didn't know anything about it. And then I told my grandma, I said, what, I'm going to go work for NASCAR. She said, oh, Lord, baby, no. Don't do it. You can't do it. Don't do it. And I didn't understand that because I didn't know. It's a sport. It seems cool. I'll get to fly everywhere. And she was adamantly against it. And so one of the things we took it upon ourselves as entry-level employees to do was to go into the infield and go into where the most hardcore fans were and just go talk to them. Like, why are you a fan? Why are you here? Why do you follow this sport so diehard? Why do you come back year after year and spend all this money on it? So just getting to know different type of people and getting to know their perspective, and that helps me in diversity because we can look at all these different ways to get people who are not fans into the sport, but I need to have an understanding of the people who are fans. I need to know how do I balance that line of doing a program that will get new fans, but not upset the fans that we already have. So I hope that answered that really hard question. That's okay. You got a shirt out of it.
Going back to the diversity thing and getting new fans.
Yep.
I've been a fan all my life.
Thank you.
And for every race I've watched on television or went to, I've never seen a broadcaster or an analysis that wasn't a white, middle-aged, kind of like a Darren Waltrip type guy. I think why wouldn't they try to even it out in the broadcasting?
Brad Dougherty. Brad Dougherty. Do you know who he is?
Yeah, I think so.
He's an African-American NASCAR broadcaster. He is the only one, but,
Did he play basketball?
He did. Oh yeah, he's 7 feet tall or something. You cannot miss him at all. But yeah, that's one of the things that NASCAR is looking to do, is to expand not only the fan base, but the face of corporate America. So the overall goal is to make the NASCAR workforce look like America as a whole. Yes, ma'am.
How do you reach people up north? I'm from Jersey, and I don't
It's hard. It's very hard. That area is really difficult. It's really hard. Did everybody hear the question? How do we reach people like in Jersey and in New York? There's no tracks out there. There were talks of building a track outside of New York probably about 4 years ago, but it's really, really difficult. One of the things that we did, but we've since moved from, was this Champs Week in Las Vegas used to be in New York. And that helped us out a lot. We brought all the top drivers out there. We did Good Morning America. We did the Pace Lap. What is that? Military Island area, right down the main strip of Manhattan. But we did all that type of stuff, and that was one of the big things that we did to get to like the Northeast. But right now, I mean, that's a struggle. It is a struggle for NASCAR right now.
You said you didn't know much about it going in, and sounds like you're pretty hands-on with everything. So is there a moment, like, is there a story where you realize, like,
I know everything.
wow, what am I getting myself into, or just like, wow, this is really awesome, like, one thing that sticks out, like an eye-opening moment?
My aha moment?
Eye-opening, just made you, like, say, wow, like, one story, yeah.
I think a lot of it came with kinetics. Like when kinetics really started to get going, after that first semester, actually I have the exact moment. After kinetics got started, the second semester, I was at Coastal Carolina University, and it was their time they didn't do a viewing party, they did a panel discussion, and their goal was to get the highest percentage of their student body to come out to this panel discussion. The only thing I was gonna bring them were 4 NASCAR executives. They had to do everything else by themselves. And they had, I think, $1,000 budget. That was it. And so most of the schools, there was a good sized crowd like this. Like this would have been great for a panel discussion. We had some schools that were smaller, some schools that were a little bit larger. We got to Coastal Carolina University, and they said, well, we had to move it. We had a lot of interest. And so like, okay, you know, whatever. We noticed that we were doing a lot of media interviews, which we hadn't done at any of the other schools. And so I was like, okay, well, maybe this is a little bit larger than some of the other ones, but that's cool. We'll roll with it. So then they take us over to another building, and we're meeting with the president and the vice president and the deans and all those people like, wow, this is really neat. Okay, well, time to speak. So we go to this auditorium, and there's people taking tickets. And I'm like, but I haven't walked in yet. I don't even know what the venue looks like. I just thought it was a classroom. And we go in, and they take us in the side, and we come out the front. They have their entire full-size auditorium, top and bottom, filled with people just to hear about NASCAR. And it was like, this is amazing. Somehow, there were over 1,000 students there. It's like somehow these 5 students were able to get this many people interested in what we have to say about NASCAR. They didn't get any extra credit for it. They didn't get anything other than they wanted to know what we have to say about NASCAR. It was on every single news channel in Myrtle Beach. It was, they brought out the lieutenant governor to welcome us. Very seriously. I mean, it was a really huge thing. And to think that these 5 students could put all this together because I sent them an email that said, this is your goal if you choose to accept it, you know? So for me, that was just kind of like, wow, so we probably could do pretty much anything.
It helped out being in Carolina. A lot of people in NASCAR were fans down there.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, absolutely. Their closest track is Darlington, and it's about an hour and a half away. But we also did things at places where their tracks were closer. Like Notre Dame actually did a pretty good job. They're not close at all. They did a pretty good job. But then you have places like Clark Atlanta. They did okay, but they were probably the closest one to a track. So it kind of helps. There's drawbacks and there's pluses and minuses to being near a track, to being in the South, to being in the North. You know, one of the biggest things is if you're in the South, there's a good chance that everybody already knows about NASCAR, so they don't want to hear anything else about it. If you're in the North, it could be like, oh, this is interesting. Maybe they're going to bring Jeff Gordon, so then everybody goes. So, okay, hold on.
How do you deal with traveling so much with like family and friends and all that stuff, and just being away from people you grew up with compared to meeting millions?
Yeah, that's interesting. The question was, how do I deal with traveling so much? I don't know. I just go. I don't really.
Too much though, like being away from family and friends.
No, not really, because NASCAR's been pretty good about They're good about family time. So if I go somewhere and it's relatively close to my family, I can stay an extra 2 or 3 days and I'll go see my family. I don't know, I'm just so used to it. Now I'm getting married in July, so we'll see how that goes. But we'll see how well that goes. But no, I'm just so used to it. Like, since I got out of college, that's all I've known. If I got out to USA Swimming and they said, you know, we don't need you to do any traveling, I wouldn't be used to that. Like, that might scare me more than anything if they said I have to be at a desk every day.
How often do you travel and like how long do you usually stay?
I was at about 80%. So out of the month, probably about 22 days out of the month. And it depends. My worst kind of trips are day trips, up and back. I hate them. I've had to do trips where I go over to Los Angeles for a 2-hour meeting and come back. Hate it. But I mean, it could be, my favorite trips are when I get to go to maybe like 3 or 4 days, and one of those days is purely just sightseeing or going to see family.
Okay, so you've talked a lot about going to the track and how you're trying to expand, you know, NASCAR. It's not a good TV product. How do you do it for TV?
What do you mean?
It's not.
It's an awesome TV product.
No, okay, I know. The reason why I say that is because the ratings are not good. So it's not. So I mean, compared to other sports, is what I'm trying to say.
Actually, compared to everything but football.
Okay, well,
It's number 2.
How do you go about? My main question is, how do you go about expanding it for TV? Because I mean, maybe it is a personal opinion, but I mean, ratings. I don't know. It's just. It's not. It doesn't. It's not a good TV product. I don't know. Like, how do you go about trying to make it a better TV product?
Okay. First, it is a good TV product. Okay. 2, it's number 2, only behind the NFL. But the ratings are lower than it has been in the past. But typically, the only thing that I kind of touch in the broadcast area is just making sure that the message of come out to a race or any type of messaging that I put with the programs, I just make sure there's a tune-in message to it. There's not much more that I can do on that end. That would be more from the NASCAR Media Group side. So, but if you want to, afterwards I can give you a contact at NASCAR Media Group that could help you answer those questions. His name is Chris Matthew. Write that down, Chris Matthew. Nobody else write it down. They get a lot of emails.
How has NASCAR tried to like focus on NFL fans to try to get them away from, well, not away from the NFL, but just as interested?
We don't have a specific strategy for that right now, but I would imagine that with this impending lockout, that there will be one.
I just wasn't sure if in the past if NASCAR had been like, hey, you guys like football, you might like this too.
Yeah, we typically stay away from other sports, especially the NFL, because they are the only sport that has higher ratings than us. But I bet you will see some kind of a plan or a shift with this lockout. Yes?
Who's your favorite driver?
I like them all equally. Yes?
As far as NFL and diversity go, did you see any impact with Randy Moss starting his own racing crew or anything like that?
No. I mean, it's something that it's definitely an asset to the sport. It definitely helps us out when we're at the track, and it's a good thing that he started because we definitely want more minorities in the sport. But as far as like the biggest impact that we had was when Max Siegel started Revolution Racing, and he has 10 drivers under him, and the TV show, and bigger things like that. So it's definitely a great thing that he's in the sport and all that. But I know you have a question. Hold on.
The business model for something like the NFL or the MLB,
Yep.
NHL is pretty easy to understand. You got a league,
Yep.
you got franchises
Yep.
who operate and kind of compete.
Yep.
What's the business model for NASCAR, and how are the parties paid? And
Confusing.
how do they function?
Very confusing. The question is, what is the business model for NASCAR? So you have NASCAR at the top, which is the sanctioning body. Underneath NASCAR, you have ISC, which is International Speedway Corporation, and SMI. And ISC is 51% owned by the France family, which also owns NASCAR. Keep in mind, NASCAR is a small family business. It's still privately owned. So ISC and SMI, they own the individual tracks. So the track, you would ask me the most confusing question. The tracks then have to pay rights fees to NASCAR to hold NASCAR sanctioned races at their tracks. So for example, last year or 2 years ago, people were saying, you know, it's deep in the recession. How's NASCAR holding up? Ticket sales don't look good. NASCAR is going to get paid X amount of dollars, whether everybody in this room goes or if no one goes, because as far as the track contract goes, the track had to pay a licensing fee to NASCAR to hold the race there. As far as the drivers getting paid, they get paid from their individual sponsors and they get paid from their teams. They don't get paid from NASCAR. So if you called me and you said, hey, I really want Jeff Gordon at my birthday party, Talia, can you do that? You know, we go way back. I would have the same chance of getting Jeff Gordon to come to your party as you would if you called his PR person. Like, we don't have any contracts with the drivers themselves as far as contract days and different visits and all that. You don't want him to come to your party, do you?
I wasn't thinking.
Okay.
Okay, mine's like, it's another out of bounds question.
Oh,
probably,
good.
But I've always wondered this. I always say, like, NASCAR, like, the drivers themselves are the best advertisers. So
yeah.
Do you have any insight on this? Is it like true that, like, when they're doing the interviews and stuff and they're taking you see Kyle Busch taking a drink of NOS.
Yep.
It's like timed perfectly. Are they
doing it on purpose?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay, so they are staged. I thought it was pretty staged.
Well, it's staged like this.
Yeah.
It's my reaction. I don't even think about it anymore, no matter where I am, because I can't remember all the sponsors. We just take labels off of everything. So that way, just in case someone was to take a picture and I was drinking, even though I know I don't work for them anymore. But it's just my normal reaction. Like, I didn't even pay attention that I did this. It's just the normal reaction of what we do if there's cameras around. Even if I work for them, even though I'm not like a driver or anything, like, it would not look good.
Cool.
That was an easy question.
I know, but that was a fun one.
Okay. Do we have any more giveaways for this class? Do we have any more time?
Oh yeah, we've got a couple more minutes. We've got
Are you guys done hearing me talk?
We've got an awesome duffel bag and a couple more shirts for some fun questions.
Not hard, fun.
Well, think about, here's something you might want to think about. We spent a lot of time in the last few days talking about spokespersons and sponsorships, and I think talking a little bit about sponsorships might be interesting. I mean, it is what drives it. What drives it?
Yes, yeah, Joe.
Does NASCAR seek out sponsors, or do sponsors seek out NASCAR and the drivers?
Both.
Oh.
There's a partnership marketing department out of New York. They're the ones that they seek out sponsors for open categories. So a lot of the partners and official partners and sponsors have multi-year contracts. So once the contract is over, NASCAR will seek out. But at the same time, there's always different organizations, and not just corporate like you're thinking of, but we've had educational institutions that want to be the official whatever of NASCAR. For the right price, I'm sure.
And do like the drivers have any say in who sponsors them?
Well,
can they be like, hey, I really want to be sponsored by.
They have all the say. It's a completely separate sponsorship. So corporate sponsors can sponsor NASCAR or they can sponsor a team. Completely separate. We have no say. So we've had in the past Ryan Newman. He was sponsored by Altel. I can't remember. Altel. He was sponsored by Altel, won Daytona 500. If it was up to NASCAR, who's sponsored by their main sponsor is Sprint, we would have said no, but we don't have say over that because it was a team sponsorship, which made it really fun when we wanted to promote that he won the Daytona 500. Yes.
Thank you for the shirt.
No problem.
Has there ever been a track that is in the NASCAR circuit and then due to certain reasons can't pay the fee, so then they don't become a track anymore?
I have no clue.
There was a track, I'm from Bethlehem, Pennsylvania, and there was a track probably in Nazareth, and they were more of what's the one under Sprint?
Nationwide?
Nationwide. Yeah, they were under the Nationwide, and they don't hold races there anymore, and I was wondering if you knew anything.
I don't know. I don't know. I'm sorry. Oh, no.
Well, like, with you working for the diversity department, like, have you ever, like,
experienced like any conflict like at like the dub things or with your sponsors or like typical NASCAR fans like rejecting the idea either way, or does everyone usually accept it?
Everyone's usually very receptive to it.
Okay.
Yeah, I haven't.
Experienced like anything?
Mm-mm.
Okay.
Now the biggest.
Is it hard to like change people's mind though? Like even at dubs, like do they just like at like the concerts where they just like walk by you, or what do they want to know?
Most people want free stuff.
Oh.
I mean, that's the core of it. Most people want free stuff. So if it means that they have to read 3 pages of what NASCAR diversity is all about, then if they're not willing to do it, then there's no way I'd be able to change their mind anyway.
How often do you see sponsors like dump drivers? You said Tony Stewart's sponsored by Home Depot, and he hasn't won in a while. Like, what keeps them from just dumping him off and wanting to sponsor whoever the lowest driver was, or whoever's winning currently?
Without speaking for the sponsors, there are a lot of drivers like Dale Earnhardt Jr., who may not win often at all.
Popularity.
But he's the most popular driver that NASCAR has had since probably his father. And he's always in the top 2 of most popular driver. You have drivers like Tony Stewart. Most people know his name. You know, personalities, if they're good on commercials, if they're really good public speakers, you know, there's more than just the driving. The driving definitely helps out, but, you know, personalities and what else they can bring to the table.
What happens when you say you change a lot of stuff every year because of the drivers? What can you talk about? Like, what's the process like when a driver changes? You know, like I know, like when Rusty Wallace retired from Miller Lite and NASCAR, like and somebody took over. What's the process of your like role? Like, what do you do when the drivers change?
We just change their paint scheme, like on all of our creative. There's nothing really that for a marketing person, we just make sure we have the right creative on whatever it is that we're pushing out. More of the change that you're probably looking for would be on the competition side. But there's not really much that we do. We go to our brand team and we say, okay, are all these drivers and all their schemes and their numbers, is it completely up to date? If not, send us over the correct creative. And then we just change it.
What's your favorite, or what was your favorite race that you worked or did?
Daytona 500. There's nothing in the world like Daytona 500 at all.
You make your life and your career field, you just make it sound so easy. Do you have any advice for
Can she have a shirt?
I'll let you come down.
Was it just your love?
It was before the recession. No, I would say one of the things I said at dinner last night was the owner of Dub Magazine always gives out his business card that has his personal cell phone number on it. And I was like, dude, are you crazy? Like, everybody's gonna be calling you. Why would you do that?
Aren't you competing with like hundreds of other people?
Oh yeah, girl, I'm just good. But one of the things that he said was that he put his personal cell phone number on there is because no one ever follows up with him. He talks to groups like this all the time. He gives out his personal cell phone number, and he said out of this room, maybe one person will call him. And it's mostly the follow-up. I will follow up with if there's something that I want, I'll follow up for days and days and days and days and days till I get whatever I want. It's more of the follow-up and the networking, and just like when you're talking to someone, like, care about that person. Don't just try and get your message across. Listen to the things that they're saying. So, yeah.
Do you have any role in the Undercover Boss?
No. It was really cool to watch, though. And I was actually out sick when they took him over to the track and they did the whole unveiling. Yeah. I missed it all, though.
When you spoke in the beginning, you said how you couldn't use a picture if it had like opposite like sponsors. Can you just Photoshop it? Like
We
if they had say a red T-shirt on
We
that
could.
had like an opposite gas station, can you just make it a plain red shirt?
We could.
Wouldn't that eliminate a lot of competition?
If the picture was perfect, if it allowed for that, absolutely. But it doesn't always allow for it. But if it did, say if it was a camouflage hat that had BP right in the middle, that's kind of difficult to change. You know, like if it was just a plain black hat or a plain blue hat, sure, absolutely. But it's not always that easy. Trust me, we look for the ones that won't take that long to fix. There doesn't exist.
Like, do you do a lot of speaking engagements? Is that like
I
one
do.
of the main things?
It's not one of my main things. It's one of the things I like to do, so I try and do it as much as I can. But there is no typical day. If I was still there, there's a good chance that I could get called and say, hey, can you go to California tomorrow? Sure. Or, I could be in the office for 12 hours. Or there's nothing typical ever.
Let's go with one more.
Okay. Oh.
Were you ever overwhelmed, like, with your job?
Yeah. I'm overwhelmed right now. I actually work better when I'm overwhelmed. If everything is going really smooth, that's when things start to fall in the cracks for me. Excuse me. If I have way too much stuff to do, that's how I've always been. When I was in high school and I was playing sports, if I was during season, I always got straight A's. When I was out of season, that's when I didn't do so well because I need to be overly busy. So, yeah, I get overwhelmed all the time, but it works.
You got that personality.
I got it, I guess.
Terrific. Well, thank you so much, Ms.
No problem.